and today I want to talk about Ian Rankin's latest Inspector Rebus novel, and that is A Heart Full of Headstones. Well, let's say it's his latest. There's a new Rebus book due out in October, and I've recently bought tickets to go to an Ian Rankin event in Crickhowell at the wonderful Bookish bookshop. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've never met Ian Rankin before. Now, I'm a big fan of the Rebus series, and A Heart Full of Headstones, as I say, is the latest book. I've got the paperback edition here. I've just finished it this week. As you can see, it's a bit battered, a bit stained, and that's because I tipped a glass of wine over it one evening when I was sat down reading it. But thankfully, modern paperbacks have this kind of plasticky kind of covering over the actual cover, so it was protected to a certain extent. So that is Ian Rankin, A Heart Full of Headstones. Now, before I start with my review, I'd like to ask you all if you could please subscribe to this channel, click the red button below and give me a like, and if you're really feeling generous, leave a comment, because this is a new channel. I had to delete my previous channel because it's lost focus, and I need to get the channel focused so it covers the stuff that I was promised, that I promised in the description box. Although there will be a lot of coverage of different type of things in this channel. So normally when I'm doing a book review, I would be put a little drinks review in there. I'd usually be enjoying a glass of whiskey or even a glass of wine, and I put a review in there. But I'm working in an hour, so I'm just drinking basic Coca-Cola. Let's give it a good little review, just for fun. So, on the nose, you get bubbles up them, and it tastes like Coca-Cola. It's a real thing. So let's go back to A Heart Full of Headstones. Now, by the time we get to this book in the Rebus series, Rebus, what Ian Rankin did with the character is he aged him in real time. So usually every book, right back to the first Rebus book, which I believe was Noughts and Crosses. So every book, usually written at the rate of one a year, would see Rebus being a year older. So that means at the time that Rankin got to the Rebus novel Exit Music, he had to retire the character from the police force. Rebus at that point was 60 years of age. So we had to retire him, and that was it. We readers thought that was it. That was the last we were going to see of Rebus, particularly when Ian Rankin started on a new series character, Malcolm Fox, who's kind of an internal affairs police officer, or as they call it in Scotland, works for the complaints department, and he did the Malcolm Fox series. There are only a couple of books in the Malcolm Fox series, but they're pretty decent in themselves. But anyway, he did eventually bring Rebus back, working on cold cases, and by the time we get to the latest book, A Heart Full of Headstones, the character is now in his 70s. So he's aged quite dramatically over the years, and that, I think, is, although Ian Rankin, I've seen him in interviews, and he said that it was something of a mistake to age Rebus in real time, because who could foresee that the series would go on so long? I mean, the first few Rebus novels weren't exactly big sellers, and it was only until, I think, around the 8th book, maybe, Black and Blue, that Rankin won the Crime Writers Association Best Crime Novel of the Year, and he was sent off into the stratosphere. And the earlier books then started selling in numbers that the author could only have dreamt of a year or two before that event. Now, the Rebus books are gritty. The Scotland that Rankin presents in these books, the Edinburgh that he presents, well, mostly the Edinburgh, one or two books do take part in different locales, but they are mostly Scotland. It's very gritty. It's very real, and when the readers within the book, you can imagine it, you know, it seems that we're reading about a real place. And Scotland, or Edinburgh specifically, is very much a character in this series. So by the time we get to this book now, as I've said, Inspector Rebus, he's no longer an Inspector Rebus, he's a civilian, and he's in his 70s. He's suffering from COPD. He's got a lot of health issues. because of the way he's lived his life. He was a hard drinker, hard smoker, and his diet was not what you'd call on the healthy side. So that's basically it. So now we've come to a heart full of headstones. Now the book opens up with Rebus in court. Now he's been in court many times before, but this is the first time he's been in the dock. He's accused of a serious crime that could see him spending the rest of his life behind bars. We don't find out what that crime is initially. That the opening section of the book, which I've just described, is titled Now. Let me just read you the opening bit of this.
I mean, age 17, 18, I won second prize in a poetry competition run by the Scots Language Society. And I got a £5 postal order as a prize. So by the time I arrived at Edinburgh University, I was a published poet, you know. And I joined a poetry society and used to get to rub shoulders with famous Scottish poets because we would pay them to come and speak to us. And student poets got to be the support act, and so I was standing up.
John Rebus had been in court plenty of times, but this was the first time in the dock. As the charge was being read out for the jury's benefit, he took it all in. Things hadn't yet recovered from COVID. Apart from the judge and Rebus, everyone was masked, and there were cameras and monitors everywhere. The jury were being housed elsewhere, a cinema on Lothian Road, as an else precaution. You could see them courtesy of one of the large monitors, just as they could see him. So the book takes part during the height of the COVID pandemic. And again, that adds a little bit of realism to it. Now we get that a brief initial chapter, which is subtitled Now, which tells us Rebus is in court. We don't know what he's in court for at this point. And then after that chapter, we go back to the biggest section of the book, which is called Then. And we go through several days in a detective life, and we find out what led him to be standing in the dock. And the denouncement of this book, I really didn't see it coming. Right up to the last few pages, I didn't see it coming. It's a brilliant ending to what is another brilliant book. Ian Rankin is highly recommended if you enjoy crime fiction, particularly the police procedural school of crime fiction. And there's not much I can say really I can't really bring in any criticisms to this book other than to say it's a great read. So that's Ian Rankin, A Heart Full of Headstones. You can get the paperback copy now. It's available on Kindle. There's an audiobook version through Audible. Well worth reading, and there's a new book out in October, as I said, which I think is called Midnight of Blue, and I'll be seeing Ian Rankin on the 9th of October at an event I've just bought a ticket for, so I'm really looking forward to that. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this brief little video. Please click like, click subscribe, leave me a comment, share the video, because I really want to build this channel up. I'll be talking more in my next video is about my own new book, which is coming out early in 2025, published by Pen and Sword Books, and that's A Dark History of Whiskey. It's a non-fiction book which looks at the history of that lovely drink, the amber nectar, the water of life, whiskey, but it looks at it from the darker aspects of its history, whiskey noir, if you like, and I believe the cover's just floating around here somewhere. So please click like, subscribe, and really appreciate it if you'd leave a comment. Anyway, thank you very much. That's Ian Rankin, A Heart Full of Headstones, a splendid read.